And,
Hey, Sean.
Hi, Lisa. How are you?
who else? I think, yeah, it was Tim and Lori for sure.
Yeah.
And then, but we're good. We're good. I will do a roll call. When I call your name, please signify by saying aye. Martin St. John?
Aye.
Lisa Hewitt Dick?
Hi.
Excellent. Derek Goodwin?
Here.
Susan Bryant?
Here.
Sean Keneally?
Here.
Excellent. I think that covers it. And that's a quorum. So thank you all for being here. What we're going to do, so maybe a question to those of you online, Sean and Lisa. We're going to go through the packet, and Montana is prepared to show it on screen, but if you have it otherwise on screen or looked at it, or it's just going to block your view from seeing us. Would you like us to show it on screen?
I don't. I printed it out, but I don't know if Sean needs to see it.
No, I have it.
Okay. Great.
Then why don't we just we'll keep the full screen with what we can see of people and look at the minutes. So actually, unless and until Mike Sardina gets here, I can't talk to the CHIP minutes. But the Harbor Committee minutes we can talk to. And those are on, if you flip to page 2 of the package.
Yep.
And they are on page 2 through 5. What I would like to do is get a motion to accept in a second, and then we can discuss any changes. Is there a motion to accept the minutes as written?
I move to accept the minutes as written.
Is there a second?
Yes.
Okay, there is a second. Is there discussion of the minutes? Changes, additions, clarifications? Thank you, Susan, for preparing these. They are comprehensive. Looking around, not seeing questions. Seeing no questions, all in favor of accepting the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the minutes are accepted. If Mike Sardina is able to be here, we will talk about the CHIP minutes, but for now, we're going to just go past that. Actually, we can refer to them, though, because he and I and Noel and Lori were at the CHIP meeting, and I'm going to give an update on it. So if you guys want to turn to page 6, we can use them for reference. We just can't approve them for posting. So the CHIP met on October 23rd in this same room. It was a follow-up. It was a couple things. One was a follow-up to the discussion we had in September in this meeting around the proposed new pier with Noel. And then separately, the second topic was Captain's Walk design thinking. Just again, looking at the documents under discussion, the proposed new pier, a number of things, Noel has presented here, so I think many of you are familiar. Derek, this is new to you, but Noel has been coming to Harbor Committee meetings for upwards of a year, probably, with the idea that we need more access in the harbor for dinghies, that the current dinghy space is filled up, and has presented a lot of information about that. Thank you, Noel.
Thank you.
Where we sort of came out of that discussion was that, let's say we agree with the need that there's potentially a lot more interest in recreation space and dinghy space and other access for recreation. And I proposed, and we agreed, that pursuing a survey of this topic and potentially other related topics would be a good way to get, call it quantifiable and qualified information about the citizens of Cohasset and their interest in recreation, both in the watershed of the harbor as well as around the harbor. And in addition, what Noel suggested, and I've confirmed with Lori, is that we can reach out to the mooring list. The mooring list is the one part of this that is also has members from outside of Cohasset, because it's sort of a Army Corps of Engineer. Anybody can be on the mooring list. And we'll go through that. I do have a discussion on the survey coming up where we'll sort of go through how we might reach out to people. And the great news on this stuff is that maybe of all the town committees, Montana is a past master at attempting to get input from surveys recently. So happy to be working with Montana.
Can we make sure that when we do that survey that we include youth? They are the inheritors of recreation decisions, so.
Well, let me say, we'll go through the survey. I have a proposed list of how we can reach out to people.
Okay.
And it's, we can sort of hit that when we get there. So thank you for that suggestion. The second part was Captain's Walk Design Thinking. And this was, again, if going back probably 2 years, Mike Sardina has been sort of a driving force of doing detailed planning. That was he's retired, but that was his work specialty in doing thinking about concepts that might improve the harbor, mostly around it, looking at the Captain's Walk, looking at the roadways, the parking, the sidewalks, all kinds of stuff about things that make it a better experience for anybody who goes to the harbor. So that is something that, again, looking at that, one of the, in addition to sidewalks, roadways, parking, Captain's Walk signage, recreational access, possible new pier, climate resilience we identified, and we'll talk to this in a moment, also as a priority. And there's real government money behind climate resilience. Montana and Brian Joyce have been very successful in continuing to get grants that are building on design work that was done a year ago and the year before that. And so continuing, I would say, to call it peel back the onion, the layers of the onion, to go deeper and deeper. And we see that as an opportunity as part of Captain's Walk thinking and other. It's not all related to Captain's Walk, but it is generally related to extreme storms coming from the harbor and possible sea level rise. So we see an opportunity to incorporate that into design thinking. So there is that. And then I think the last thing we discussed was there was sort of I don't know if it was late breaking news. Yeah, it was. The grant was approved for a cesium grant for the sewage department mitigation. At the time, that was October. Early October. It was after this meeting that you'd had a new grant that had been, and we have that on the agenda to talk about a little bit later. So that was what we did at CHIP. Questions, comments?
Yeah, I got one on the topic of climate resiliency. Has I got to imagine the developers with the new projects on the waterfront have incorporated some sort of resiliency plan into what they're doing on the harbor front. I got to imagine. I don't know if there's any way to pick someone's brain over there, to help us with that topic alone.
So I could tell you, Mike Sardina is the expert on that. He has looked at their plans. I wish he was here. He could answer that.
Okay.
I think, one of the, it's a great lead-in question, because one of the frustrations, I think, that, let's say, is part of the town is the commercial folks have money and architects, and in the case of the Cove, they did a good job of rallying public opinion, getting Chapter 91 full approval, but they are out in front of us. They are ahead of us. So if we have ideas about how they could do any of these things better, including climate resilience, and we can get in front of the select board and others, we want to try and get in front of commercial development. in the case of the Cove development, they've followed whatever requirements they have to as a commercial development on the harbor. And I can't tell you whether it was, I believe it may not be where you would want it to be in the face of big storms, but they have met whatever requirement they're required to. And the same is sort of true of the, what is it, the Cohasset Wharf?
Atlantica.
Yeah, Atlantica, now renamed Cohasset Wharf. They've gotten their plans all approved by the planning board, select board, and everybody else. And I think recently I saw on Facebook, they got some approval
Got
that's,
permitted.
I don't know who that was what they were waiting on. Do you guys know?
Yeah, so I just know this through another
Please.
contact, but sewer commission basically, and Brian Joyce is the highway, I believe Brian's head of the DPW.
Okay,
Basically, every restaurant, bar, serving food, whatever, needs what's called a fat trap. Never heard of this thing in my life, but it stands to reason. Grease, fat, everything coming out of the kitchen. A restaurant has to have basically a hole, a very big one, to trap all this. And
Okay.
Fat trap, and it has to do, getting rid of all this stuff, grease, everything from the kitchen. The one that was there, which I believe is where they dug in the parking lot recently. You'll see crushed stone over part of the driveway because they just dug. They finally went and removed the old one. And they had, can you imagine, it probably went back to Hugo's. But the owner was fighting the town on this forever. I don't need to replace the fat trap. I don't need to get rid of, and the sewer commission and Brian Joyce basically said, well, you do, because if you don't put in a new one, and you don't address the issue, it's gonna go into drainage, it's gonna go into the sewer, you're gonna have, a pretty nasty situation on your hands in the years to come if you don't do it. So they issued the permit with conditions that be addressed.
interesting.
So I think that's what the backhoe was there. I drove by the other day and I saw them digging up the parking
Yeah.
lot. I'm guessing that's probably part of it. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure, but that was the holdup. Then I heard occupancy was another holdup. They had to reduce the capacity of the place because there's not a lot of parking.
Yeah.
I think the initial plans were a much larger capacity of people in there. And the parking wasn't gonna,
But it sounds like it's the agreement on the sewage fat trap is what was. the
I
stumbling
think
block.
that was a big part of it because that just
Okay.
affects everything.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's the
Thank you for
story.
that up. I'll just say it sounds
Yeah.
completely plausible.
Yeah. Anybody want a Reese's after that one?
Yeah, I'll still go for it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So putting that in context, a little bit of background on that, the reason that development is only incrementally different than than the old Atlantica is there's a dollar limit that a developer can put into it that is restricted, that if they go above it, they trigger Chapter 91 regulations that require them to meet FEMA flood codes, and they'd have to raise the whole structure 12 feet higher than it is.
For
So-
Atlantica.
For Atlantica.
And that would go for the mill area as well.
Well, whatever they own, whatever they're trying to do.
Whatever
if they-
development.
Or any
Well,
development.
yeah. So it's just it's a truism. So they were able to, sort of finesse this new project in by not substantially changing it. And it sounds like this was
Yeah.
maybe the last thing they had to address, and hopefully it'll be an asset to the harbor.
Yeah. No, I hope, whatever goes in there meets the needs of the town and the Atlantica was falling in. There's no way around that one.
Yeah, it still might.
I wish they'd put Hugo's back, but that won't
Yeah.
happen.
Well, I think that, if you look at underneath it, it's not exactly a
Yeah.
totally reassuring structure there.
Yeah.
But where that also plays into this is the Cohasset Wharf went through all their approvals and, they got approved. And when we look at what's being approved and the Captain's Walk specifically, they call it the necklace around the harbor, it's pretty broken at Atlantica. You have to walk across a big opening and who knows what the sidewalk situation is there. And it's that whatever, cows left the barn. I think our objective with doing some design thinking and then informing and sharing that with the public and select board about what could be, then the next commercial development that comes along, maybe there's an opportunity for more discussion and influencing design.
But wait,
they-
so what actually there, so the Cohasset Wharf got approved, but have we seen that plan?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's gone through all the town approvals, all
There's
public.
a whole website.
Yeah, it's posted everywhere.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they didn't go through us. They presented to us. They presented to Harbor Committee early in the process. It was an informational Q&A, but we are not an approval board. So it was helpful and approvable. Yeah, helpful and interesting. But there's other boards that they need to go through for approval.
We're not adjudicatory. We're merely advisory.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
but when, I mean, I think it's interesting that you said that you wish to have this necklace as a captain's walk.
Yeah.
And there's a block that is unknown.
Well,
So
it's
far.
it's the Cohasset Wharf. We can't influence, again, those projects have already they're already designed and approved by Cohasset.
So they didn't integrate any thoughts of
think they-
working
I
with
think
us
the
on?
condos did. I'm
Yeah.
almost certain the condos did.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know about Cohasset.
Yeah, I mean, it's not totally black or white, where I see, again, under our role, which is an advisory board to the select board, is that we put forth good ideas that then become incorporated into the thinking of zoning of the Cohasset bill, the group, the committees that are adjudicatory, as to use Lisa's big word.
Well, that's what it is, George.
Well, no,
You can make
it's a big word that I don't
No, no,
use, so I
that's a
need
word
it.
I don't use either, and that's not actually what I was talking about. I was saying, so it's not about adjudication, it's about influence.
Well,
And influence, if we're on this committee and we all have good ideas and we spend a good amount of time thinking about the harbor and thinking about what's
Yeah.
good for the residents over the long term, and we have some holistic views of what can happen with a captain's walk that is contiguous, that's a good idea.
yeah,
So we should influence that
well,
process
that's,
however we can. And I understand entirely, lawyers, that you can't influence the law on that, but you can influence people.
Yeah.
I mean, we work with Tom Sullivan,
absolutely. No, I'm
So-
not saying you can't influence. There's a whole bunch of ways to do it.
right? And
just-
George, can I
and it
just
might
make-
not be going through the select board. It
It-
might be just saying, hey, Harbor Committee has met and we thought it'd be a really great
Well,
idea if.
And
Yeah.
I will also get to that. We want to share with Select Board what our plans are and make sure that they're fully supporting where we're going. We
We're
have,
not the only body either, because among other hats, I'm on the Historic Commission. And I was at that meeting last night, and they're basically charged with watching anything. They're not Historical Society.
it's the commission. Yes, Jackie
Commission.
Dormitzer and
Jackie
you.
Dormitzer and our
Yeah.
little group that meets, and they're monitoring the exact situation with the Captain's Walk. It's on their list. We discussed it last night. Jackie said that she's talked to Jean DePold, who's the select woman of the town, and said that they are aware of the Captain's Walk. They are aware of the historic significance of what was at the harbor, obviously going back to its shipbuilding days and fishing and all that. And they said they are aware of it and it's not being tabled or pushed aside, but they are waiting until the landscaping of the condos. I don't know about Tom Sullivan. I
Yeah.
don't know about that because it just got approved. But as far as the condominiums go, they are waiting for the buildings to be finished. And then when they get into the landscape design, building the Captain's Walk so it is not blocked off
Yeah.
between the Legion and, say, the Stockbridge Street end. So there would be some continuity between that. So it is being watched. It's not, and Jackie Dormitzer went to the selectmen and said, we're already like, as far as the signage, like Jackie wanted me to reach out to like graphic designers and figure out who can do all the, who can do
Yeah.
all this stuff. So that section, I think, is being closely watched.
Yeah, and. can I
The
just
other
make-
one, the Atlantica and stuff, I don't know how they're doing their parking lot, I don't know as much there.
Yeah,
That's.
well, I'll
that's
say,
what I'm-
actually, based on, so we've worked closely, actually, one of the first things I did joining CHIP and Harbor Committee was work with Jackie
Yeah,
Dormitzer.
you know the background.
Well, we look at her and your group as being very important. We have adopted the term Captain's Walk to really refer to the area around it, but also to reflect the fact that we're totally cognizant of the historical walkway.
Yeah.
And would be in collaboration.
Exactly.
My expectation is that the condominiums on the Cove are actually quite a big improvement for Captain's Walk, because now you can walk along the
You can
harbor
walk along.
rather than
Kimball's
along the
sort
back of
walked it.
a motel. Where we do think we missed an opportunity is over at Cohasset Wharf, because the sidewalk area there is,
Where the fisherman's dock is, right next to the Salt House. Lawrence Wharf.
well.
Oh, you're
no,
talking about further.
No, I'm talking right at Cohasset Wharf, through
Oh,
the old
between
Hugo's
there.
parking
Oh,
lot.
okay,
is-
yeah. No.
They're designing the pathway for pedestrians,
Yes.
and it's suboptimal. It's
Okay.
not, no negative on them, it's just not great.
Is there a sidewalk? I just.
Not really,
see the
no,
picture.
no.
It's a parking lot.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
it's just painted off.
Yeah.
But that's sort of the point of this, and we have some committees we're going to talk
Yeah.
about to really try and put pen to paper. Susan, to give, a little bit more on your influence. Influence, I see as, we can get our own word out, and we plan to, through surveys, through forums. We've done that successfully. I think through influencing or meeting with other committees, we haven't done that much. And big opportunity to, join forces on that. And then, very importantly, figure out a way to get Cohasset citizens interested in what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I don't know if Hoadley Martinez is still the architect for
Mhm.
that,
Mhm.
but, they have a vested interest in making sure that Cohasset residents are pleased with the result over there.
Yeah. And
So if we say, oh, Cohasset residents are a little concerned about that, they might be able to, give you
Yeah.
a few more inches.
which is why
of
we're moving on
pedestrian
this.
pathway, yeah.
We're not resigned to failure on it. We're
Yeah.
just trying to get moving on it. Anyway, that was the CHIP meeting, and Noel, you were there. Would you like to add anything?
I don't remember if it was at the CHIP meeting or the meeting before, but one of my concerns is that my mother's mooring has now been relinquished to the town because she passed away.
Yeah.
And I did ask Lori to take it off the distribution list, and she said she can't do that.
Yeah.
So we talked about recommending that the town manager or selectman instruct the harbor master to take it off during the pendency of this discussion. Because if we don't have it, that's not a good thing for moving one mooring holder
Yeah.
there. So there's only one mooring that interferes with the
Yeah.
proposed dock location. And my mother's mooring is 50 feet away. You can't get closer than that.
Understood. Yeah.
So if Lori can't do it, and I understand that, I think that, moorings are probably the most difficult
Well-
thing to imagine.
Yeah. Well, I think we talked that we did discuss that at the last Harbor Committee meeting. And at the CHIP meeting, we, all I'll say is you would not, seek a vote on the proposed pier at the Harbor Committee meeting. In terms of instructing Lori or instructing asking the select board to instruct Lori, I've talked with Lori and she has not, yes, the mooring has reverted back to the town. She has not assigned that mooring and doesn't have a timetable for assigning that mooring at this time. So that is, I don't know if she shared that with you, but that's
No,
what she shared with me. So the effect is nothing is happening with his mother passed away. We're sorry about that. She had a mooring. Nothing's happening with that mooring at this time.
is that something we can rely on? Or is there some reason we can't get a more firm commitment along those lines? Because
Well, so let me, I'll answer to that. I know you've been concerned about that. Lori can't be here today, but as Harbor Committee, I'll just say that it's very important for Harbor Committee to work collaboratively with Lori. And I view that a proposal to go, whether well-meaning or not, over her head to the select board to then tell Chris Senior to tell her to do something, I think that's, she's indicated she doesn't want to do that, and that would be viewed negatively. We, as a committee, in order to get our work done, I would say also that's step one. Anything we do around a new pier or, is going to require her shepherding a process through Chapter 91 along with us and many other factors. It's just, I think it's particularly this early in the game. Probably, I don't think it's constructive for Harbor Committee to go over the head of our ex officio member here if we can work collaboratively on a solution. And what we identified as a solution is we need more information. I think on the subject of moorings, she certainly has discretion, as you know. And I would believe that if we identify a need in that space, at the time we do that, she would have discretion to do things, just like she does now. So that's why I'm not in favor of, again, sort of the one of the first things we talk to select board is going over the head of our ex officio member of this committee.
George, may I respectfully add another issue here?
Sure.
Once again, we're really sorry about the passing of your mom.
Thank you.
I'm very sad. But what you're referring to is a private interest. And as appointees, and you'll know this because your background in law, that we're all special town employees and have to file ethics filings, etc. And we're not supposed to be working for a particular interest. We're supposed to be working for the town's interest. And so this is, to me, a private matter that is, that you need to work through with the town and with the harbor master, etc. But it's a sitting board. I think we're really running into ethics issues. So I would love to help, but I think because it is a single person asking for an individual thing for benefit, it really gets into municipal and state ethics rules. And just to give context to the rest of the people here, is I'm a general counsel for state agencies, so this stuff is constantly coming before us about issues like this. So if we can be helped individually or thinking about it or talking about it just generally within the context of the rules around the moorings, that's one thing, but we can't work for the benefit of just one person's interest.
Thank you, Lisa.
I
Now,
don't
not to,
understand.
I do have more discussion probably behind this when we talk about the survey, which is what we did agree
Sure.
was a prudent approach. And we need more information. And I would offer, we don't know that the solution you've proposed is the only solution or the best solution. And I just, I believe the harbor master has the ability to at least move moorings around in the public interest if that's this decision that happens, which I think has been your driving interest behind your mother's mooring or the location of her mooring.
Right. So that could be used by the gentleman who's going to be moved if this were to go forward.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not, I don't think it's, at least I don't think he's petitioning to use the mooring for his own use.
No,
I
he's
think
not.
He's petitioning for it to be used for the person whose mooring would be displaced by the dinghy dock that is proposed.
Exactly.
I don't know the specifics of this, and I'd really want to know more specifics before I'd have an opinion on this.
Would it be okay to move to the next? I want to discuss the survey and show how that hopefully is going to inform this. Anyway, thank you all for good questions and good information. Going back to the agenda. Captain's Walk Harbor Recreation Survey Planning. There we are. I think I did put them in order. So this is a one sheet. Lisa, I sent this out separately. Sean, if you're still able to listen, it was a separate email sent about 6 o'clock today.
Yep.
Out of the CHIP discussion and really spurred by your passion for this, Noel, I broadened it a little bit, but I think we proposed a survey to get more information from the public about their interest in recreation, I'll just say generally, but we also want to specifically address the public's interest in more, call it dock space in the harbor, of which there's potential additional opportunities. So that was the spur of it. I just want to walk through this document that I threw out and actually use the next 15 minutes as a working session. I'll just share that, in a next topic coming up above this, I want to talk about the creation of subcommittees that would be able to take individual issues that we're talking about and dive in separately from this scheduled once every 2-month meeting. Anyway, before I digress, the survey. I see an opportunity with a survey. Harbor Committee, where have I heard it? I've heard it in a lot of places, that, anyway, we don't want to be a secret, and we are. Unless we make a noise, nobody will hear us, right? Recreation does a good job of putting stuff out there, and people know there's a Recreation Commission. I'd say for Harbor Committee, people like Noel do, because you're passionate about it, but a lot of people don't. So we have an opportunity, I think, through creating a survey to create awareness of Harbor Committee and our priorities and what we're trying to accomplish simply through the questions we ask. To demonstrate to the select board and to town employees like Chris Senior and others that we are out there and trying to listen and understand what town of Cohasset wants. And very importantly, to try and get actionable data. And that was a bit of a discussion I had with Noel. We don't really have great information to get actionable data to help guide some of the priorities that we have. So this I just threw together, and the idea of the extra bullet point there is if other people feel like chiming in, they can. But I'll go through it and then we'll see if we have anything else to add. Possible topic of interest is to ask citizens of Cohasset, the mooring list. A question, this is not a huge survey. I'm seeing it. Montana, you've done surveys. What do they have? 8 to 10 questions on them?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can talk about as much as we want, as long as we limit it to 8 or 10 questions. Access to the harbor for dinghies, kayaks, sailboats, stand-up paddle boards, rowing shells. What are the town of Cohasset interested in? And, I would have to admit, a lot of this stuff is, is generational. What I, as a 60-something-year-old want is not necessarily what 30-something-year-olds want. So I think it's really helpful to ask. Walking, cycling, running around the harbor, however you want to use the harbor on Margin Cove and border streets. This is an area of really strong interest for purposes of the Captain's Walk. How many people know about things, interested in it? And we've actually have a lot of input on it, but we don't have broad input. I throw out there use of the Parker Avenue boat ramp, Mariners Park. Those are examples that may not be that hard hitting. The Captain's Walk in all of its forms, as a historical walkway, that's just an area where we could ask some questions. Potentially how to make recreational access safer. So those are areas where I think we could ask questions. I think people in town enough would be interested in answering that we would get some good data. I see a potential opportunity to collaborate. I've already talked with Derek about recreation. I think would be very interested in recreation's perspective on the harbor, question they might ask, as well as, collaborating on the distribution of the survey.
Yep.
Because you have a great distribution. Likewise, Historical Commission, and I'll come back to it, but, other commissions, I don't know whether open space or, not to cast the whole wide net. The purpose of the survey is going to be around recreation, but there may be others who have an interest in that I'm not aware of. If you have ideas,
I
jump in.
would also mention potentially, again, potential opportunity, right? Maybe roads and sidewalks. We're talking a lot about, utilizing the public ways around the harbor as well. So, and that if they might have questions about how to prioritize, where they're putting their funding. And let's say that, I mean, it's going to be on the ballot, right? So as of the other night,
Yeah,
they're funding for, their fund for roads.
so I appreciate you bringing it up. Noel, you've certainly brought it up. I think constructing the survey, want to balance, the questions we can ask without delving into areas that we can't manage. That's my only thing. I mean, I think sidewalks and, is absolutely an essential aspect of Captain's Walk. The fact that they're crappy,
Yeah.
not safe, not cordoned off. The parking is, a huge problem that nobody's figured out how to solve. So my only thought on the survey is, if we ask a question, we just need to think about what we're going to do with the answers. But it is interesting thing potentially to talk to the Roads and Sidewalks Committee.
Maybe it's
Just-
after the fact too. Maybe it's not a collaboration on the survey, but after the fact, bring them, if we have survey questions around the roads and sidewalks, bring them the results to say, this is something you might want to be considering.
I
would
was,
say if we start digging into it and we come up with a survey and we find that there's room to ask good questions about roads and sidewalks that are related to the harbor, that's
Well-
great, that we start helping them do their job. That's what collaboration is all about, is helping each other.
I think go ahead, Montana.
So I worked with the sidewalk committee last spring to apply for the One Stop grant, and they had a few sidewalks that were like specifically in mind, but a few people in the town agreed that it might not get the grant, which it did not. They were focusing on King Street, Jerusalem, and one other area that was like way bottom of the list. So One Stop, we apply for that in like May. If you guys approach them now with all your viable suggestions, all these important topics, and we could work together to apply for this grant with like much better application than we did last time, I think that would be a good opportunity for you guys to improve the Captain's Walk.
What's the grant?
It's called One Stop. It's like so basically when you apply, you just say what you're looking for, and then the federal government has like 8 different categories that they assess your project and they see best fit. It doesn't mean like you're applying for one thing. But it's a pretty good hefty grant, and I attended a conference the other week, and they're trying to increase their funding like capacity more and more each year. So I was working with Jay Pimpieri,
Pimpieri, yeah.
and he really wants to apply for a good sidewalk project come next June or May. So if you approach him now and plant the seed, I think you'd be in a good position come summertime.
Can I also suggest that we really hit hard the people that live in senior housing, and make sure that we reach out to them and we partner with them and we collaborate with them, because those are people that are most likely to be walking and not driving fast past there. They are walkers and they're kind of stuck right there, and they have great access to the harbor and great access to the village, but there's some sloppy bits that don't connect very well right now.
Okay.
And I feel like we may have missed a lot of people who may have special needs and don't attend town forums, and that's not okay.
Actually, let's go to the next list. I was just on number 4, distribution potential emailing lists.
Yeah, that would be, you could put that there for sure.
So
That is number 1.
I think having seen how Montana's done her recent surveys, electronic is a good way to go. You just try and get people links. So, whether seniors can handle electronic surveys, we could try and figure that out. But the ones that I came up with that I know exist, there's a mooring list, and Lori does have and says she has emails associated with the mooring list. Montana, you've talked about the Chris Senior weekly update list. I think you did.
Yeah.
That has like 11 or 1200 email addresses on it.
Yeah, and then also in terms of getting, like, reaching out to people at Wolcott Commons, you can, if you guys want to create like a hard copy of your survey, so this is kind of related, we'll touch upon it later. So the MVP grant that we got accepted for recently, we're trying to involve all demographics of the Cohasset community. So we did make a few hard copies, and you can like post it up on their
Oh, that's
bulletin
great.
board. And like every Monday, they give opportunities for people in the community to like talk to them. So I'm sure one of you, if you have time Monday morning, can say, hey, this is something we're
That's
doing,
awesome.
give them hard copies.
Oh, at the
'cause-
the morning cafe.
Yeah, and like there are certain tables that are very receptive, others not. Karen Arante will tell you who will be more receptive to your project more than others. But it's a good way to get in touch
That's
with
great.
the senior population, yeah.
But then, and with any surveys, of people that are needy, you know, if the needy people could fill in a survey and participate in stuff, they wouldn't be needy. So to reach out to the people who really need, you know, a nice smooth ramp, sometimes you just have to go right to them and meet them where they are at instead of assume that, you know, they're just not, you know, the most needy people are not savvy enough to fill in a form. If they were, they would have plenty of everything.
Well, I think that's a great suggestion on that group.
That's
that
a Wolfie strategy,
Mhm.
not an original Bryant one, but absolutely valid.
So the other list that we have, I have a list that's been used for like 3 or 4 years to invite people to Harbor Committee. It's about 100 names. I've seen recently this week that CEF has a good list. They sent out a broadcast email
The
about town
Education
meeting.
Foundation?
Yes, yeah, they're listed. I can share this with you too.
I haven't. I just
Okay.
wanted to make sure that was the right.
Yeah, and then I would go back here, Cohasset Sailing Club, CSCR, CMI, Cohasset Yacht Club. Ask them to get to their members, Cohasset Rec Department, various distributions, I think. Again, assuming a collaboration there, and then posters, QR codes in town hall, those kind of things. What other ideas?
Lisa, do you still need to speak here?
Yeah, I just, I'm sorry, I know it's very difficult being the only person who's remote, but as far as the distribution, I think George, that's a great idea, a lot of coverage. It'd be great if we also had some sort of article in perhaps some of the
Yeah.
online
That's great.
Or
In
something
the
Anchor and
Cohasset
such.
Anchor, yeah.
Anchor and other places. But I'm sorry if I was distracted for a minute, so but I just want to bring to everyone's attention that during the municipal harbor plans, discussions over the last couple of years, there was several public forums. And during those, I don't know if they were terribly effective because they weren't terribly well attended, but there's some very good charts and questions that
in
Montana,
the
perhaps
plan.
you can look at in the plan and on pages 39 to 42 or something. So that might be something we can talk about, leaning from those points, and it hit it on the cabins walk, dredging, dock slips, zoning, et cetera, et cetera. So it's been done once or twice with a very limited amount of people, but it might at least cut down on some of the work of thinking about the categories that we
Yeah.
want to touch on.
And I will, I'll make a plug for that. So on the Cohasset Harbor Committee site on cohassetmass.org, we have a link to the final approved Cohasset municipal harbor plan. And I will say that is a guide. We'll talk about that in a minute when we look at priorities. It remains a guide. The thing is, as times change, there's certain things actually that we're considering priorities that weren't particularly prioritized, or that weren't things that came up that strongly in the municipal harbor plan. But you'll be able to see that in a minute when we talk through priorities.
Question, George.
Yeah,
Well, when it's under 4, at the top is mooring list. There's 2 mooring lists, right? There's the list of people that have moorings, and then there's the 500 plus people who are waiting to get a mooring.
okay.
So it's really lists.
Okay. Well, I work with, Lori says she has the ability to get to them. And, we did look, after you brought that up, it is true that the Cohasset mooring list does as you probably know, have sometimes whole families on it, which is a smart thing to do.
Sure.
So there's not necessarily 500 families, but in any case, there's 200 or 300. Well, actually,
Yeah.
I counted, it looks like there's around 300 last names on the list. And
Good work.
I let Excel do the work.
Okay. That's good. That's informative.
Yeah, yeah.
Because those people would have a keen interest, I think, in this survey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, this is what the idea on this, and I sort of threw in execution steps. The idea is I look at this as a positive action step to create awareness of us and who we are and what we're trying to do. And one of the next first steps, I would have liked to have it today, but I don't. I asked Tracy Connor, who asked Jean Healy-Dippold, when can we get in front of select board? Hopefully in December. And I think that'll probably happen. But when I asked that question, it was about a week and a half ago. And I think she's busy.
A little
And
bit.
I told her, when the dust settles, we'd like to talk about a date. The idea on that, and we'll get to this in a minute, is that we give an update on the things we're doing, seek feedback. And there's people like, I don't know them, Chris Plex, some of the other new members, they may not know we exist. I just don't know. He's doing a great job on other areas of recreation, right? The new tennis courts and,
Only took
back court.
decade, but
Well, at least there's,
Something
it's
happening.
indicative. So, I think that's going to be the case every year. There's always going to be new members of select board, and it's up to us to keep the awareness up for us.
And before we get off of number 4, the distribution lists, I want to make sure that the youth get reached there. So let's put in the schools.
Well, what I have is CEF, and I
Yeah,
don't.
but that's that's
If the-
totally different.
If the
than
schools will
reaching-
let us do it, we can try and do that.
They have a civics requirement, so they can address a few things.
Also
I-
social media, if you're talking about the youth.
Yeah.
I think Lisa mentioned something along the same lines. I mean, the current South Shore newcomers, all the people on Instagram, I'm sure they post something too.
Great, good point.
Cohasset 143 reaches.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, great idea.
But I think that
I didn't even have social
formal,
media here.
reach to schools means you get every family that has a kid, and that's really equity-based outreach.
We would like that.
You can contact Brian Scott to work on doing his email blast because he does those weekly.
Yeah, so they might distribute for us,
Yeah.
just like CEF might
And he's a
distribute
fan
for
of
us.
project-based learning and engagement in
Awesome.
community, so.
Has CSCR been able to use them to distribute stuff?
Yeah, Brian's been great.
Awesome.
Yep, he was with us on Monday at our workshop with our NOAA grantees.
That's great. This is awesome. So I feel, and to put this in context, with some of you, say your biggest survey, how many responses did you get after beating people up for 6 months?
166. And that was after up to this date last January, so almost a full year. And
But so I look at that, that's about 164 more pieces of information than we have.
yeah, sure. I put up a flyer in every single business downtown, including Wilcott Town Hall. I repeatedly post on Cohasset 143, probably on a bi-weekly basis up until June. And then I just privately emailed people, but you have to be extremely persistent. And something that I explained to George, if you guys are going to do a survey, this should be something that's spread out over 6 months so you have the biggest chance of getting the most responses. So
Did you offer raffle prizes?
hell no.
Exactly. Does that
My
help?
budget.
It does
But
help.
I mean, going in with that expectation, to me, this is fine. I mean,
Yeah.
we start to get information
So-
and accumulate it.
So I think at the same time that we launch a formal survey, I think we can also launch informal surveys. And that means us having conversations with random people that we know through our associations and through our non-formal, like for me would be with my CSER crew and outside of my CSER crew of friends and neighbors. And to just trying to get people talking about those things and listening to them, and maybe we write some paragraphs about what we hear from people. Because I
And
think
ideally get
sometimes.
them to fill out the survey.
Yes,
would be ideal.
and,
Yeah.
you know, how many surveys do we get per day? You have to take a freaking survey because you went to see your doctor. It's so annoying. Like, people
Well-
are over surveyed, so, you know, I
I
think
know.
that that's a real, when you have a survey that's really valid and you really want some real info, you have to compete with all those, the fact
Yeah.
that people are just overloaded and maybe have a ban on filling in surveys because their doctor wants them to fill one in.
Well, I think.
So I think qualitative is as important as quantitative because sometimes that can those qualitative conversations can really flesh out an
Mhm.
idea better than a checkbox thing.
Yeah,
Something to consider when you're making a survey, that's just like a personal thing. Agreeing with Susan, create a survey that's only like the length of your phone screen. If you have to click to a second page, like people are gonna give up and they're not gonna go past page one. So
Yeah.
if you can fit all your questions on one page, you're more likely to get answers. Because she's right. I have to take a survey for like everything. If I realize like I have to go past page 2, I'm like, no,
Yeah.
it's not worth my time.
Right,
So,
and then you go through like page 5 and they're like,
Yeah.
and are you willing to donate $50?
so
Seriously,
Estimated
thought
time
you
of
wanted my
completion.
info.
so let's,
Estimated 3 minutes to take. Doesn't tell me
Yes.
an estimated time to complete. I know it's a long survey.
exactly.
well, before we leave this, and I do want to leave it, I think we've had great input. What's the general thinking about Harbor Committee and a survey? Does it seem like a reasonable thing to pursue?
Yes,
Not.
Yeah, I think
yes.
all the avenues you just discussed is gonna cast a very wide net. You know, whether
Okay.
we space it out, as Montana said, I think that's a good idea. Social media, everyone's on social media. I don't do Facebook and all that, but I check Cohasset. Even people that aren't on Facebook can actually look at the page, which is
Yeah.
what I do. I can't actually go into it because I'm not on it.
Yeah,
But you can do what, there's so many people that are. And then, you know, standard form surveys and things like that. I mean, you've crossed all your Ts and dotted your Is. I don't think you can do much more than that. I think it's a great idea. As
okay,
you said, it's an information gathering tool.
okay.
So,
Any other, Lisa, you're in,
No, I think it's, you know,
Very
I'm a big fan of survey research. I think the biggest thing is that we need to make sure that we can identify at least, you know, the part of the town people are from, this and that, so that we just don't, you know, load the ballot box up from one group of
Right.
people in their attitudes. We just did a 7,000 attorney survey and we realized that all the surveys were coming out of 3 counties. You know, I mean, you just have to be one of the questions without being too granular.
Right.
So people feel like, oh, you know who I am. But you can just break it down in some fashion that maybe by, you know, do you have children? You know, are you, you know, retired? I mean, things like that. So you can kind of figure
Right.
out we're not just looking at one group of people.
and I didn't go, well, these are good ideas. I think the demographics, you know, and how you structure this and make required entries or not is a sort of a next step. And then you have to test it. Will it actually work?
Right.
May I?
Yeah,
So my fear, of course, is the survey comes back and everyone says, no, we don't want a new pier. That would be bad.
okay,
Okay, but if that's what happens, that's what happens. It never occurred to me over the last year that there would be a need for a survey. And that's partially my fault. I must have had blinders on. But for me, it's so self-evident that a new pier is necessary just by virtue of the length and breadth of the mooring list
mm-hmm,
and the fact that there is no public dock space for a dinghy user who doesn't have a mooring. So those two things speak loudly about whether we need a new dock. It's entirely possible we could go through this process and no dinghies are added. We'll get a new dock, but maybe this committee and the powers that be
Yeah.
decide we don't want dinghies, we want kayaks. We might want to put the Cohasset police boat there. All kinds of things can happen on the way to the forum, but I think the things that count are what we already know. We know there's 300 plus people that want to have a mooring, and we know that there's no one that doesn't have a mooring they can put a dinghy on a dock.
Well, except at the yacht club and the sailing club.
Well, yeah, those two organizations,
Yeah.
they're not a town, they're not.
Yeah. Well, I think, I mean, in order to get, so we've talked about a survey to give us information. And I think we need to put together a good survey that's going to try and elicit, answers to the kind of questions we have. And it'll be really interesting to see what the answers are.
I have two possible topics of interest to add from people that I've talked to.
Okay.
One is swimming. It was something that we totally forgot about in the original harbor plan, but it is something that people love to do. So I'm going to add.
I didn't put it on because I was like,
No safe place.
yeah, well, but it's like, how you
Well-
ask the question, but okay, add it. So what was the other one?
And part of managing swimming in the harbor is also managing unintentional swimming in the harbor, which becomes a safety issue. So if somebody falls off their boat, can they get out? And docks, as Fran pointed out, docks are a lot higher than they used to be. So it actually is a safety issue for getting, if you accidentally go swimming.
Swimmers exiting the harbor. Okay. All right. No, it's a good ad.
No, but plus,
No, I hear
kids
you.
love swimming in
No, I
Cohasset
know.
Harbor, and the only way to go in is jumping off the bridge. That's insane.
Well,
What did we forgot? We totally overlooked that.
no, this is, it's good. I mean, recreation. I'm sort of
That is totally recreation.
curious,
The other part of recreation is that if you are a boat owner or a visiting boat owner who's going to come and maybe spend some money in our town, you need some services. So if you're a visiting yachts person and you've shown up, where can you go ashore? Can you borrow a car to get to the grocery store? Can you get fuel? Can you get water? Can you shower?
yeah.
Pump out boat, we already
I
have.
recall that stuff being in the harbor plan.
Yeah,
but I
some of
don't-
that is in, because I
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
we had extensive conversations with the harbor master about trying to create those services and how to, at the fact that, we used to have a gas dock, back in the day, et cetera, et cetera.
And then I
Was-
think also that when we talk about the use of the harbor, the Parker Avenue boat ramp, there also used to be a boatyard here at the mill. So this is contributed by somebody else I spoke to, said, we should definitely consider those maritime uses of that area and making the harbor really a harbor. And that means having services for boats, not just humans.
Okay.
So we have a long tradition of that here. And it, I think that,
So I've noted it, services for boats to add.
yeah.
Good discussion. Just in it, we'll see, we're sort of, we'll see how we're doing on time. Let's move to the next agenda item. So Harbor Committee priorities is on page 7 of 11. If you guys want to flip to that.
That's the other
Would
document.
you excuse me?
It's just in the big doc. Yeah,
We're done, right? Thank you.
pretending no,
Thank
take
you
care.
all.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Harbor Committee priorities, this is a recap. So at the September Harbor Committee, this is on page 7 of the package.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. We went through priorities and identified them. And this list is my best version of what came out of that. I actually also cross-referenced it to the very helpful notes, Susan, that there was some stuff identified and changes. The thing that I also did partially for my own benefit, but for others, is I cross-referenced it on the far right to the municipal harbor plan implementation actions. So in the PDF on the Cohasset Harbor website, if you turn to what's the document, say at the top, page 109, you'll see actions 3.1, 3.2. Those were municipal harbor plan. And so you look down here, we're pretty consistent with things that were known at the time. But some priorities we added, like number B, is to ensure that the harbor capital needs are included in town of Cohasset capital forecasts. Something that's kept coming up at town meetings, people wanting to know, what's the overall capital need for the town. And I think we have some pretty good ones that we would be aware of. Anyway, that was not something that was identified and necessarily should have been in the municipal harbor plan, but we've agreed as a committee it would be a helpful thing to do. Likewise, the Butler Estate, not really much going on there, but it wasn't in the harbor plan. Pretty much everything else was. There's a million priorities in the harbor plan, which is why we've had to select some. But they're good. I mean, it's like, it's either a shopping list or it's a laundry
Yeah.
list.
And to defense of the consultant that we hired to pretty much scope it out. I mean, the recipe that one has to fulfill, in order to have a harbor plan accepted by the state is pretty broad. And that's why when they dug down on a pretty granular level.
Well, I mean.
So it helps us, I think.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think it's sort of grounded in something that the town of Cohasset approved as a body and, and the select board did at the time and the state approves it and we're following it. So to me, it's, belt and suspenders here.
Yeah, and I would commend anybody who, I mean, it's big, but if anyone hasn't read it, and you really should, put it on your lap while you're watching the football game or whatever, and just, thumb through it because there's a lot of really good stuff in there that I think will inform our work.
I will tell you what I find to be the most succinct way for me to enter it is through the implementation plan.
Yep.
There's a bunch of stuff, but if you look through that, it's nicely organized. Where we stand, even though this isn't in priority order, I think you'll see some of the subcommittees who want to do. Harbor climate resilience is, we've agreed, is its own separate big item. And then the captain's walk we've talked to with Chip. Montana's going to talk about number E, MVP. Lisa, I think you have potentially with the governance committee.
Yeah.
Governance subcommittee is, we'd love to get the harbor bylaws onto the town ballot and have a really, really long town meeting a year from now.
Yeah, and just to explain to others that that's an, thanks. Wow. I'll be
You're
going now. To be more precise, just for those who don't understand, maybe not familiar, at one point, because there's 52 agenda items, under the Harbor Committee Master Plan, the group was broken down into two subgroups, which was CHIP and governance. And so there were the governance is actually another appointed committee that is a subcommittee of this committee. So there's David Farag, Debbie Shad, myself, Barbara Canny, and we've been working on this stuff. So, but we'd love anybody else who'd want to join or work on these things.
So anyway, it's great to have governance. It's great to have the additional person power on that committee that is not necessarily on this committee that can focus on it. But I think we do see an opportunity. Lori identified it to update the bylaws. I've certainly seen what zoning and others do with that. It's an effort. You got to hold forums. You got to hold meetings. You got to do the work, and then you got to get town meeting to vote on it right at the end of the meeting. What I would like to do, you've had a chance to look at these. I would entertain a motion that Harbor Committee adopt these priorities as listed. And then we can vote upon it. Because we didn't do that the last time. And with the intent being that these are priorities that we've agreed to in Harbor Committee, we share these with the select board and we get their opinion on it.
Mhm.
I'd move to adopt the Harbor Committee priorities dated 11/15/2023.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
So moved.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The priorities, for what it's worth, are worth the paper they're written on. Now let's talk about them. So I contacted, or I think I sent emails to everybody about the next topic, which is, it's sort of part of this topic, it's subcommittees. So one of the challenges of this Harbor Committee is that it can consider and take action on issues. CHIP does some work. The governance group does some work. What I'm proposing with these new subcommittees, which is a new function of the Harbor Committee, is to create a nimbler structure that still is totally discretionary whether subcommittees meet, but to form subcommittees that can meet at times at their discretion and both try and dig into issues as well as be responsive to things that come up and be able to meet. The way we've structured Harbor Committee is at the very least to have standing meetings on this night and then every 2 months on the third Wednesday of the month. Those are standing meetings. The idea is to create room for smaller, more nimbler meetings to meet. The idea of subcommittees is that they, well, I can go through it. If you just look at page 9, and other than the top bullet, it's the same content for each subcommittee. The subcommittees would be formed, and that would be, well, we'll talk about that. The idea is that they address a certain function, so there is a semi-narrow topic that they're responsible for, and they make recommendations to this committee in order to enable this committee's mission to make recommendations to the select board. So they're not independent, they're subcommittees. But the idea is they take action, they recommend something to Harbor Committee, they've already probably vetted it with us, we agree, and then we move forward and take action as a whole board rather than a subcommittee to whatever that action is. Hold a forum, run a survey, meet with select board, collaborate with others, whatever that action is. That's the idea is the subcommittee is actually doing the legwork to figure out how to move that forward. The structure, and this is really a function of Harbor Committee and who we are, up to 3 persons. So more than 1, can be 2, maximum of 3. And the idea is that if it's 3 and they meet under open meeting law, you can have either 2 or 3, and that comprises a quorum. And the problem with having 4 members on a committee is you need 3 members to comprise a quorum, and we've just seen challenges with nimbleness associated with that. So up to 3 people. As a subcommittee of this committee, they have to be members of Harbor Committee. People can be invited who are not members to participate, to provide input. That's fine, but they won't be voting members of the subcommittee. We would need in the subcommittee, it doesn't have to be as formal as we are. One committee agrees to lead the posting of the meeting and achieving a quorum. So get one of their other subcommittee members to be there. Somebody has to take minutes. Doesn't have to be the same person every time, but it needs to happen. And then the last thing is that any subcommittee we agree on, the purpose, structure, membership, and any other aspects may be amended at any time by a vote of approval at this Harbor Committee meeting. So we can be nimble in that respect to make changes as we see fit. A key thing about this is just to respect open meeting law. So that's a key thing that we're both trying to work within and to make as easy as possible. Any meeting of 2 or more people that are trying to move a subject forward is really a deliberation, and deliberations have to happen in open meeting law. Montana, we've talked about this, and you've said you're quite willing to support whatever subcommittees we have who need to post an open meeting and make things happen, right?
Yeah.
So that's helpful and generous, and thank you for that. So that's a key thing, open meeting law and operating that way. So we have 3 committees that we're proposing. The Climate Resilience and Infrastructure Committee is to address Harbor Committee priorities to foster awareness related to climate resilience and infrastructure in and around Cohasset Harbor. Part of the structure of this is I'm actually proposing this as sort of to take the place of CHIP. We're not abolishing CHIP, but this would do a lot of the work of CHIP because CHIP is not nimble the way it's currently structured, and this would be. Again, with 3 members able to move things forward. If you flip the page to page 10, Capital Planning Subcommittee, this is a group that would start and develop and maintain financial information, principally capital information, on some of the big initiatives that we're proposing. Other than that, it's the same structure as the rest of the subcommittees.
George, can I interrupt you for 1 second? This whole packet thing that you sent out is on the town website,
No, not yet. No,
because it's not jumping into this document.
no. Only, so as we go through this today, when we post the minutes, we also want to post the documents we talked about in the meeting.
Sure.
And so, but only when we
Awesome.
approve the
As an
minutes,
attachment.
only when we approve the minutes do these then go up onto the website, as I understand it, because there's something we discussed in the meeting.
Susan, if you want a hard copy, there's one next to George right now.
Yeah, no, I have it up here. I just
Okay.
can't get them to jump from one document. The
Yeah.
PDF is not. So
And
just
I have it all,
formatting
I
is
have it all in
into-
Word too, anyway, so. Communications Subcommittee, I broadened that, but the idea I did have the survey in mind is to develop and lead communication initiatives that foster advocacy and community awareness of Harbor Committee priorities, initiatives, and issues. Those are committees I've proposed. And now, I think I talked with several people about, their potential interest in serving on those committees. But I would open this to discussion. What do you guys think of this, what for at least this committee is a new concept? And have you, I don't know if you've seen it, if there is such a thing, Derek and Rec, or if there's such a thing in Historical Commission.
The Historic Commission has just been really kind of just,
It's a small group, right?
yeah, it's smaller than this probably.
Yeah.
It is smaller than this. It's always just been one body, no subcommittees, although there are certain people that are tasked with certain things.
Yeah.
So it's more like just a divide and conquer kind of methodology.
Well,
Like I can tell you the yacht club is a million subcommittees, right? There's obviously, there's the executive committee and then there's countless other committees. I mean, that's just the way that place runs.
yeah.
Uh,
This is an experiment.
yeah, I mean, it's a divide and I think it's okay. I don't know if anybody else.
Yeah, I think the important thing is that no matter what the subcommittees are doing, they come back to the Harbor Committee and we talk it through. You know what I mean? It's not like anybody is not going to be part of all of this. When the little working groups get, finished and have recommendations or their work, they're going to have to come back to the Harbor Committee and say, what do you think? So I think it makes a lot of sense, George.
Derek, any observations on your first time into this group?
Yeah, I'm the new guy, right?
You don't have to.
No, I mean, rec operates the same way. Historical sounds like. It seems effective. It also, you talk about everybody coming back and communicating to the group, the bigger group, but it seems like every group is also going to be collaborating a lot more than just kind of going away and doing their own thing. It's going to be, communication is going to be, working capital planning and climate resilience constantly to develop messaging, right? So it's not like you're just disappearing, right?
They don't have to own it. I mean, I'm not trying to like make a whole lot more work, but it might be, if you take a look at the survey, for instance, the survey, if we do it in open meeting, if we don't have a communications group, we have to do it as part of this meeting.
Right.
We have to schedule special meetings of 9 people, including the harbor master, who really doesn't like doing this. No offense to her, but it's not her thing. She does other things. So I'm trying to create space for work to get done. I'll tell you, the model that I've taken this from is the school committee. And I talked to my cousin Lydia St. Ange, who used to serve on that. That's a committee of 5 people, but they also don't have time to both deliberate in their scheduled meetings and get stuff done. So they have subcommittees of 2 that hold open meetings to discuss issue, to figure out things that need to be figured out, and then bring it back.
Do they tend to have those meetings like right before or right after the main meeting?
You can go to the agenda meeting. No, they'll have it like on a Tuesday at 1 o'clock. Whenever those 2 people can get together, as long as it's posted, and public, they're just trying to create an open space to get stuff done. And they can, I like having this meeting at a time when the public can attend, which is why we choose
Absolutely.
7 o'clock on Wednesdays.
Mm.
Working group meetings sort of depends on their objective. And what they're trying to accomplish, just how conveniently they might schedule it for public attendance.
Mm.
But that's not, to me, the driving point, because whatever they decide and do is going to come before this meeting. And we can foster, public awareness of the discussion that's going to happen as a result of that.
And does Montana count as one of these people?
No, she's
No.
No,
not.
I
And
just,
does Lori count?
Lori's
Yes.
a member of the committee.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Just
just-
because I'm looking at the numbers of people and like numbers of committees and going, wait, I already volunteered to be this, write up the minutes
Well,
for
no,
this.
you're-
That was a
yeah.
terrible idea. I'm totally
No,
regretting
no, and
it.
we
barely
don't
can
need
get
a
it to
lot.
you in time, but
So I can share a little bit.
That's right.
Mike Sardina, I talked with him, he's not here, but he's agreed to be part of the new Climate Resilience and Infrastructure Subcommittee. So Mike is sort of in there. I've served on CHIP before. I would still like to be in here. Lori does not. Let me go to where Lori is on the Capital Planning Subcommittee. She has agreed to be on that subcommittee. Somewhat statutory, almost anything capital related needs to go through her and up to Chris, and then down the other side, however where it goes. But she's agreed to be on that committee.
How many seats are on this committee?
9.
9, okay, so
That's
it
the-
works out perfectly, yeah.
Actually, and I can share a little bit more. That's the reason for maximum of 3. At any subcommittee meeting, you can have up to 4 Harbor Committee people participate. If there's a 5th, breaks the rules. A fifth creates a quorum of Harbor Committee,
Mhm.
and then it becomes a Harbor Committee meeting that wasn't posted.
Right.
So it's sort of designed to work within the law, and so that's that I also learned when my discussion with Lydia. But that's generally not a problem to tell people they don't have to attend a meeting. But it does give any subcommittee the opportunity to say, that person knows something, I'd like them to participate. They just won't be part of the subcommittee. They'll just be a participant.
wait, but if they show up and there's 5 of them,
Then
Then
we
it's-
have kicked somebody out.
okay.
In a
Yes.
nice way. But
Right,
yeah,
but yes, we do.
yeah, that's the
Or
sort of,
or call everyone else.
that's
to
the
come back.
job, that's the job of the person who's trying, usually not a big problem in Cohasset, committee meetings, but that's the job of whoever it is who's agreed to get the quorum, is to both get the quorum and manage the quorum. But you can see, we have a posted meeting, well-known meeting tonight, and we have one extra attendee.
I was that extra attendee for a long time at Rec.
Were you?
I was, yeah. I was the one, the only.
You were the non-voting.
No, he said you just attended because you were
Attended.
interested.
Yeah,
Exactly.
because you're interested, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we appreciate you being designated to attend with us. So with that, I guess I'm looking, do you have an interest in serving? Do either of you or Susan or have an interest?
Climate like that, I think I'd.
Yeah,
sit down on that one, Sure.
and I will take more if we have to duke it out, we will, but I appreciate that.
Yeah, well,
And by the way, as chair and somebody who has some time to do this stuff and likes to do it, I could also nominate myself for multiple subcommittees. I just don't want to steal all the fun.
Yes.
Derek, you have any thought on?
I wouldn't say I have a specific strength that would pigeonhole me into
Yeah.
either subcommittee. I could be of value where needed, I think, anywhere. So,
Would you be interested in being on communications to help with the survey?
yeah, why not?
Be great. And I will say, you know, we have a couple of other members. I don't know if Sean, if you're listening in, I don't know if you still are.
Yes, I am.
Nice to hear you, Sean. And this must have been a scintillating conversation so far.
It is what it is.
Have you taken a look at any of the subcommittees, and do you have time, interest, or ability to potentially participate on one of those?
I definitely do. I just to take a look at it. Do you have an email or something you can send over?
Yeah, I will send it afterwards. There's a couple of, if you do a search on my name, you know, into your email address, I think there's a couple, but the most recent package that I sent out at 4:00 today,
Okay.
No,
we're looking,
no, that's the one that's a survey. That's about the survey.
no, I sent out this
Uh,
package to everybody as well. I sent out the whole package. I sent out the survey at 6.
Yep, on pages 9, 10, 11.
Yeah, page 9, 10, and 11 of the package I sent, actually is probably 5:00 today.
Oh.
Yep. So be happy to have you get back to us, Sean. We value. So I've been working with Sean on different stuff.
Sean, I'll forward it to you right this second.
Sean, you are the most
Okay, I'm
email,
not in
the most
car right
email responsive person I've ever worked with.
Do you want it to your Key Realty or your Cohasset one?
Key is definitely the best one to get me at.
SMK at, yeah?
Yeah, keyrealty.com. Yep.
Yeah. So, all right, we have Mike, George, and yes, I'm sorry, I had it wrong over here. Martin on climate resilience. Oh, Lisa, so Susan, you're writing notes, so I didn't necessarily expect you. I think that is, you know, that's a pretty big thing, but you're certainly welcome to, if some of these interest you, to participate. Lisa, with governance running that and with the bylaws in front of you, I also did not expect you to necessarily have to participate, but also would welcome
I
it if you wanted
expressed
to.
it, well, George, we had a pretty long conversation and
Yep.
I did express an interest in resilience and infrastructure subcommittee, but if that doesn't make any sense, then I can help with communication.
Would you be willing to do that? You said you can. Communications would definitely benefit from your everything.
Sure.
I would certainly rather do communications and have zero to contribute for capital
Honestly,
planning.
I prefer the other one, but I understand that you don't want more than 3, so that's cool. And as I mentioned to you, I don't want to be part of capital planning because of Mike's role in my husband's role in capital planning for the town.
Right.
Oh, you don't
right.
want to be.
No.
Bam.
So
She's got some
Susan,
smarts in that department.
Susan, you. All right. So what I've got, Lisa, is I know you want to do. You're interested also in climate resilience, right?
Yeah, but if there's 4 of us, then it triggers the
Right.
issue. So just put me-
Well, it's just I asked Martin first, so you
No,
know.
it's okay.
Trouble.
Mine gets to go first. No, I mean, that's fine. I mean, as I said at the very beginning, all of these issues will come back before the whole committee, so.
Yeah.
So wait,
Well-
I have one other clarifying question. So say we have Mike, Martin, George are the 3 who are on the list as subcommittee members of that.
Mm-hmm.
And say one of you can't be there that night,
Mm-hmm.
then Lisa could be it or not.
No.
No, that makes no
as
sense.
long if there needs to be designated members.
Committee members.
Yeah.
'Cause she
And
would
as
be-
long as 2 of 3 meet, there's a quorum.
Okay,
That's just has to be greater than 50%. 3 of 3 is 100%. The other is 66%.
wait, yeah, so what if there's 3 and 2 of them can meet that day and then another harbor committee member shows up?
Oh, that's fine. The subcommittee has its 66% quorum. There's another harbor committee member who's attending as a guest, and they don't exceed the harbor committee quorum.
Okay, and then,
So
as
that's
and then
fine.
still, as long as another 2 harbor committee members.
That's
it's
right.
like a- It's
That's
like
right.
a
As long
SAT,
as there's not 5 harbor committee
should be
members,
like-
we're good.
cards and
Yeah,
dice that go
yeah.
with this.
No, it's really a function of
Okay,
how this committee's structured and math. Um, So, Lisa, where do you land? I mean, I guess for what it's worth, I'm not forcing it because I do think governance needs time and attention and energy and has a real job in front of it. So if you were to say, I pass for now, that's also fine.
Come on, George, you just threw me off of resiliency.
No, it's not that. It's just getting,
No.
these are about getting stuff done and I want to make sure you have,
Well,
that
there were 9
that it
people
works for
on
you.
the committee and I thought you wanted to create 3 committees, so that 3, 6, 9 makes sense to me. So if you prefer, I don't serve on any of them.
No,
that's
no,
fine, but
I'm good.
if that's,
I guess having an open discussion to not feel compelled. Sean hasn't weighed in yet. And with the exception of Lori, I mean, we can have 2 or 3 person committees. The 9 is actually not to necessarily cover everybody. It's just to make sure that we have 2 or 3 people on a subcommittee. 2 is good.
And if for some reason you need to bump me over to capital planning to fulfill
You can
some
do
of,
that.
either way, I'm flexible. It's not a strength of mine, but it's intriguing.
yeah, that's how
Okay.
I feel too.
So-
Yeah, I'm gonna try. But maybe
Um,
that's better. Maybe the people who aren't experts are gonna say, why are we doing it this way? And that'll make sense. Like,
So you can put me where either of them,
Okay.
where I need to
Well,
look.
Susan, it sounds like you're interested in communications. Is that what I heard?
yeah,
Okay. Lisa, I will ask you, this is,
I think I've expressed an opinion that I'd like to be on communication if I can't be on resilience, but if you prefer that, not, as I said to you on our extensive phone call the other day, George,
Yeah.
wherever you feel is appropriate. But I'm
Well,
just, it's 8:30, so I
me-
gotta get going.
let me throw out then a proposal that, Derek, if you've been so amenable, to go to capital planning,
Whatever helps.
I think it would.
The new guy, I'll be easy this time. Next time, sorry.
Well, and we can change these and then, and then Lisa, have you be on communications with Susan. And what I would like to do is I will fill myself in as a third. And if I can get a substitute for me at the next meeting, we'll do that. But at least it makes these committees able to move forward from this meeting.
wait,
Um,
I'm sorry, a substitute for you and which?
Well, I'm saying for this meeting, I will be glad to be on the communication subcommittee with you and Lisa.
Okay,
And at the moment, I will be glad to be on a capital planning subcommittee with you and Lori. Didn't necessarily set it up this way because Sean hasn't weighed in, and I think what I want to do is be able to move forward now. As other members come on board, or as Sean indicates his interest, then at the next Harbor Committee meeting, we'll amend the membership. But
Fair enough.
if that's okay.
Sean,
I
did you
am
have?
I'm driving, but throw me on anyone you want, seriously. So
Yeah,
my car right now, so I do apologize. So I have you on as I'm driving, but I will jump on anyone that you feel is necessary.
okay, well. If you had to choose between capital planning or communications, would you have a point of view on that, Sean?
Flip a coin.
What's that?
Flip a coin. Either one works for me.
All right, all right. Then I'm going to put you on capital planning. I appreciate it, Sean.
So thank you.
Okay. So what I'd like to do is have us formally accept these subcommittees as written so that we can move that forward. And if someone would like to make a motion to that effect, we can have a vote.
I make a motion to move forward with the 3 subcommittees as discussed.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second,
Nice.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? We're good. Thank you all for that. So we have those members and, thank you. I'll say it's all in the execution. All we're doing is setting up structure. So this stuff is, it's actually a little better than the paper it's written on, but it'll be much better yet when we actually have a meeting and move things forward. We're a little running over time, but not too far. Why don't we go straight to Montana? And would you like to fill us in on what's going on in the town that's related to Harbor Committee?
Yeah, so as you guys know, we got accepted for 2 grants with Coastal Zone Management. We're waiting for legal to review the contract, so those are on hold as of right now, so we're a little behind schedule. But there's another grant that we got accepted for back in August called Municipal Vulnerabilities Preparedness. It's a 2-year grant program.
That's the MVP 2.0.
Yeah, it's their pilot program, so it's their first go around with it. Cohasset got accepted, and part of that in the first year is building a core development team, and it's 10 people total. 5 of those people are like town liaisons, and the other 5 are residents, community members. So we want to make sure that everyone in every corner of Cohasset has an opportunity to hear their have their voice be heard in terms of their climate concerns and their community concerns. We had a lot of people actually want to be involved, so we created an application, and on the topic of not wanting to do surveys, I brought a hard copy for everyone. If you are interested, you would be participating from the months of December 2023 until August 2024. It's about 60 hours total spread out between those months. You get paid $40 an hour. I know that may not be like a dragging point for all of you, but yeah, it's a good.
I'm shocked.
CCR.
Yeah, it's part of the MVP program. They allotted a X amount of money between our vendor and community liaisons to give more incentive to participate. You would have to come to the in-person meetings. You'd get like over a month's like advance notice. But basically, we just want to make sure that we're hitting the topics of like food insecurity, climate resiliency, harbor. It gives you a chance to voice your concerns and be present. So like if one of you do decide to apply and you get accepted, you can come back to the meetings and say, hey, this is what we talked about. Do you guys want to bring any points for me to talk about at the next meeting? So like say George can vocalize those concerns. But yeah, that's basically it. I'm gonna allow them to be on the table. There is a URL link. It's really short, as I described earlier. So I can send that to George to send to all of you. And then also like, please don't keep this just for yourself. If you know other people, please send that to those other people. We're trying to reach as many people as possible. Like we were talking about earlier, it's really hard to get in touch with people, and like by the time people know, it's already too late to participate. So we're blasting it out as hard as possible. We're only allowed to keep it open for 30 days. We opened it about a week ago, and then we'll be closing the application as of like I think December 12th. So
Wow.
Yeah.
So remind me again what the structure is. Who are the, call it ex officio members from the town, and who are the, and then this, how many open members are there?
so there's 5 resident positions. And
Those are
then-
the $40 an hour positions?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's 5 town. We haven't selected the 5 town. Like I'll be one of them. Cassandra will probably be a second one, and then we have 3 others that we're deciding. And we really we're focusing on touching on mental health a lot, as that has become pretty prevalent in Cohasset over the past 2 years since COVID. So we're considering like
Health agent.
yeah, health or the mental health agent, Stephanie Saunders, but we're just assessing the different like vulnerabilities of Cohasset and seeing who applies and what sections the applicants fill and who from the town
Wow.
will do the opposite. So
That's very different than the MVP from 2018,
yeah, like I'm
which was
reaching
really
out.
all about, natural disasters.
Yeah, and
But that's what they've found, is that
I know.
emergency management.
I'm not
ends
saying
up
it's
being-
wrong.
It's just, no, it's a different, I mean, it's not, like when Wolfie went down to Washington, that's when he heard that food insecurity was the big deal for
Mhm.
emergency management. Because once you have lights out, no power, you can't get food, you know.
Yeah.
If you don't have a second house in the Hampshires, or whatever it is, you know.
So this is, okay, so it's five citizens of Cohasset.
Yep.
Cool.
So please send this out to people and then it will be Justin is gonna put on an email blast. I'm gonna put on Cohasset 143. I will be putting on the town webpage for the like CZM section. I'm gonna post on my personal social media. And then we'll be individually reaching out to people. So if you also have suggestions of like individuals, please send me their name and their contact so I can reach out to them individually.
Is this the whole application?
That's it. It's like I said, like it's really straightforward. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want you to get annoyed with the process because that might prevent you from even applying to get to the other end of the project. Short and simple.
And you say it's 60 hours,
Between the months of this December and August 2024.
and what are the, obviously, you know, for people who work full-time?
It will be
Early hours.
meetings like this late. We would like to have you in person, but it will be hybrid because our consultant is based up in Maine, but they will be, it can go both ways, so. And basically the meetings they're gonna be prompted questions that our consultant will provide and you guys it'll just be like an open floor discussion. And then they'll at the end, come August 2024, all your concerns and opinions are going to organically create a seed project that we will be implementing in year 2 with a different consultant, so.
And this is funded by the state?
Yeah, there was a kind of like a smaller version of this back in 2018, which is what Susan's referring to. And they just created like a high, medium, low priority list of what their climate concerns are in terms of Cohasset. But they're trying to branch out and focus more on like food insecurities, mitigation, like adoption, everything, like literally anything to do with sustainability and climate change, because obviously it all falls under the same umbrella. We all got to adapt at some point, so.
You mentioned a lot of interest. How many applicants are you anticipating?
I'm hoping 20, but like I said, that's a really big number for Cohasset. We already have 5 applicants and we posted it like last Thursday. So I think we're on a really good track. Like I said, once people heard that MVP, we got accepted for it. People are like, I want to be a part of the core team. So we got a lot more interest than I expected. But we have to pick and choose. It has to be a fair pick. So, but that's it on my end. So yeah.
Can we use all of those emails for?
If you want, because it's a good way to know that like people who like climate change would care about the harbor
Right,
too.
right.
I won't tell you no. It's a great strategy. So
I think Stephanie Saunders is well respected in the field of dealing with complex interdisciplinary problems. So
yeah.
that's what I heard on the street.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that update. And I guess, do you have any, going back to the CZM grants, which are pretty interesting for the Climate Resilience Subcommittee. Is there a time frame when those need to start in order for grants to not expire?
No, I mean, we got the money. We're just waiting now. I mean, this happened last year with CZM where they were a little late to the game on signing contracts. Luckily we finished on time. I mean, we signed contracts with CZM, so the money's in our pocket and now we just have to wait for legal to say, this is okay. There'll be no issues going forward. So right now, KPM Law is reviewing both the contracts and hopefully I'll have an answer by Thanksgiving. I've been making several phone calls
I bet you
the
have.
past 3 weeks. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, we'll look forward to, hopefully we'll have had a kickoff meeting. Well, maybe not.
No, both of them will have kickoff meetings. They
But
have to
by-
inform the public.
We're going to meet January 15th or something like that's our next meeting, and
Hopefully it'll be
probably,
in December.
hopefully, okay. Well, we'll keep the group updated. I'll move on to the next and maybe last agenda item. So the select board update, all this stuff sort of fits together. Based on the outcomes of this, we have at least priorities we've accepted. We have subcommittees that are going to do work, and the work we think is a good idea. So the idea that I'm looking forward to doing is getting a date for select board, giving them a very one-pager or something close to that, something that they can absorb of what it is we're coming in to talk about, and seeking input, feedback, affirmation, whatever the select board likes to do, but also having as many of this group be able to see that, attend, whatever. Like show of force would be awesome, but also a show of ears to hear and ask questions. So whenever that happens, I'm not able to influence that too much, other than it's a Tuesday sometime. Ideally, we'll get some we'll get an audience to select board. I think if asked for 10 to 15 minutes, I don't know how tight their schedule is, but it wouldn't be a lot of time, but it's an opportunity for probably a few of them to realize we exist. Any input or feedback to that idea from your experience or otherwise?
I haven't personally gone in front of the select board, so.
You say Jackie's used to doing it.
Yeah, Jackie, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, she's been heavily involved.
And I think, they expect the chair.
Select board came to our meeting, which is just Jean.
Okay,
She came to the historical commission meeting.
well, that's another way to do it.
Yes.
Well, isn't there a liaison to every committee by the selectmen board? I believe has a liaison for every standing committee. There's supposed to be someone appointed.
I
My
think that-
memory, when
I
I
think
appeared before them.
You are right, and I think it's probably still Jack Creighton.
Right.
So there's sort of a 1-2 punch. They're supposed to come here. What I'm really looking forward to is the opportunity to go to them, to have an audience with ideally 5 of them.
Yeah, I
And-
mean,
and-
generally, it is very, very, very structured, and because they have so much on their agendas, so a tight presentation makes the most sense.
Yeah, so tight presentation, but still with, everybody invited from Harbor Committee, so there's everybody hearing the same thing. Or not.
Yeah, no, I'd attend that. That's available.
So more to come on that. As soon as, ideally that, we'll get a date in December, and it'll be a date that people can attend. Otherwise, it'll be after that. But when we can do it, I am going to push for it so that we, are again, trying to sort of raise our profile. Are there any topics to bring before the board today that we have not talked about?
I think there's stuff going on in the harbor. We always said that we were going to do updates of stuff that we knew about. I don't know anything about the Trendowitz situation, but they're like building seawalls and raising parking lots and.
I can tell you,
Yeah.
there's they got approval to raise the parking lot because of flooding. And they got all the proper permits. He notified all the neighbors. It seems like it's wrapping up. The pounding has stopped. I live right there. Those of you who don't know me. So it's been boom, boom, boom for a couple of weeks. And I think it's gonna help that area not to flood as badly as it has in the past.
Thank you, Lisa.
Are they going to pave it?
I think they probably have to conform with whatever the regulations, 91 regulations are, that they probably have to be permeable. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's right on the edge of a marsh, which like resiliency would say, oh, we should have planned for that marsh to advance to Lisa's backyard. But yeah, I don't know
Thank
if we
you.
missed that opportunity to get involved in that at all. Seems like,
The
Uh,
CSCR probably received some sort of a butters notification before Concon or whatever, when it was, the awards were, I mean, the hearings were taking place.
I don't know that we did, but it's not our property.
Well,
that's true.
yeah,
That's true.
right. True point. I don't have anything
I
else.
think we were sort of surprised by that.
Motion to adjourn? Do I hear one?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor, signify.
Aye.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, Sean. Thanks for hanging with us. We'll look forward to seeing
Thanks,
you in
everybody.
person sometime, man.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Okay.
Lisa, drive safely.
Yep, take care, bye.
See ya.